Welcome to the Explainer, where we take these really complex tech topics and, well, we make them simple and actionable.
So today, we're diving deep. We're going to build the ultimate playbook for configuring and managing Azure storage accounts. We'll cover everything from the moment you create one to protecting your data, all the way to some really cool automation tricks.
All right, first things first. Let's start with the basics. What is an Azure storage account anyway?
Think of it like this. A storage account is basically the foundation. It's the digital warehouse where all your unstructured data is going to live. And I mean all kinds of data. Blobs for your pictures and videos, file shares that act like network drives, queues for your apps to talk to each other, you name it. The bottom line is, without one, you've got nowhere to put this stuff in Azure.
Okay, so we know what it is. Now let's talk about how to build one, because honestly, the choices you make right here at the start, they're going to have a huge impact on your performance, your costs, and how resilient your data is later on. So you got to get this right.
So here's a fun little detail that catches a lot of people. That name you pick, it has to be globally unique. And I don't mean just unique in your account, I mean unique across all of Azure. Why? Well, it's because that name literally becomes part of the public web address to get to your data. So if you name your account Explainer Storage, the address for your blobs will be explainerstorage.blob.core.windows.net. It's right there in the URL.
And then you've got this big decision: performance. Look, for most things you're going to do, standard is your go-to. It's the workhorse, handles everything, and the price is right. But if you're doing something that needs crazy speed, like real-time data crunching or editing massive video files straight from the cloud, that's when you open up the wallet for premium. It's all about that low latency muscle.
All right, so we've built our account. Now let's talk about protecting it. Because let's be real, just having the data isn't enough. You have to make sure it can survive, well, anything.
This is probably the most important question you have to ask yourself. What happens if things go wrong? How much data can you afford to lose, if any? Luckily, Azure gives you some really powerful tools to build out a solid plan.
Let's start with the most basic option, LRS, or locally redundant storage. It's pretty straightforward. Azure makes 3 copies of your data, all inside the same building, but on different server racks. So if one rack fails, no big deal. It's cheap, it's simple, and it's perfect for data that isn't super critical. Now, if you want to step up your game, there's ZRS, or Zone Redundant Storage. It also makes 3 copies, but here's the key difference. It spreads them across totally separate data centers, or what Azure calls availability zones, all within the same region. This means your data can survive an entire data center going offline. Pretty cool, right? Great for those high availability apps.
But what about a real disaster, like a whole region gets hit with something? That's where GRS, or Geo-Redundant Storage, comes in. This is your classic disaster recovery setup. You get 6 copies in total, 3 in your main region, and then Azure automatically copies another 3 to a paired region that's hundreds of miles away. Now we're talking serious protection.
And this table just lays it all out so perfectly. As you go down the list, from LRS all the way to GZRS, which is kind of the best of both worlds, you can see how everything increases. More copies, protection against bigger and bigger failures, and the 9s of durability just go through the roof. Of course, so does the price. It's all about that trade-off. How much is your data worth?
Okay, so our account is built, it's protected, now what? We actually need to get in there and manage the data, right? So let's talk about the tools for the job.
You've basically got 2 main players here, and it's all about picking the right one for what you're doing. If you just want to poke around, look at your files, maybe upload a few things here and there, the Azure Storage Explorer is your best friend. It's a nice visual desktop app. But if you've got some serious work to do, like moving terabytes of data or automating big copy jobs, you need to bring out the big guns, AzCopy. It's a command line beast.
And this quote right here, it gets to the heart of why AzCopy is so powerful. When you tell it to copy data from one storage account to another, it doesn't download it all to your computer and then upload it again. No way. It just tells the Azure backbone, hey, you two, move this data between yourselves. It all happens server-side. It is insanely fast and efficient, a total game changer for big data moves.
Okay, let's switch gears and get smart about our money. You know, not all data needs the same level of attention. We can actually teach our storage to manage itself and save us a ton of cash in the process.
So Azure Blob Storage has these things called access tiers. You've got Hot for the stuff you use all the time. It costs more to store, but it's cheap to access. Then you've got Cool for data you touch maybe once a month. And finally, Archive, which is dirt cheap for storage, but costs more to get data out of.
The whole idea is to move your data down this ladder as it gets older.
And the best part? You don't have to do this manually. You can set up what's called a lifecycle management policy. It's so simple. You just create a rule that says something like, hey, if any file hasn't been touched in 30 days, automatically move it from hot to cool. And if it hasn't been touched in another 150 days, push it all the way down to archive. You set it up once, and it just works. It's a fantastic set-it-and-forget-it way to cut down your bill.
Whew, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's wrap this all up and put together the final playbook, the key things you absolutely need to remember. All right, here it is, your playbook. Number 1, plan ahead. Seriously, think about your name, your redundancy, your performance before you click Create. Number 2, use the right tool. Storage Explorer for quick visual stuff, AzCopy for the heavy lifting and automation. 3, automate to save. Put those lifecycle policies to work for you. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, secure your data. Always be thinking about who can access your stuff and how.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. Your data is only going to get bigger. It's never going to shrink. So the question is the storage strategy you're building today really ready for that future? Something to think about.